Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Suitcase and Chardonnay podcast, an extension of my blog by the same name. I'm your host, Renate Engelbrecht, and here we talk all things lifestyle, travel, fashion, food, and wine.
Before we head out into the wilderness, we place our watches and our phones and whoops and aura rings into a box, and which initially creates a bit of anxiety for people, and then they're like, whew, this is a bit new. And then as we start heading out into the Karoo, it's amazing how that feeling dissipates quite quickly, and the next minute they're noticing things, seeing the mountains, the light change. There's just space to allow your mind to have a break, like to just take a moment away from screens and to start to feel again.
You live in Joburg, and obviously you also have a busy lifestyle with your own practice and everything. How do you incorporate, slowing down and feeling in this lifestyle?
Yeah, the reality is it is a major challenge for me. I will not sit here and say it's an easy thing and I've got this beautiful daily practice and amazing way that I just glide through the world. It is hard, and I find it really difficult. I love adventure and freedom, and the freedom that comes from traveling, from exploring, from being out in nature, from being in the mountains. Like, I love all of that. And then when your body says, no, we're not doing this anymore, the invitation, or maybe not even the invitation, that's quite a light word, the push into it is to go on an inner adventure. So to actually go and explore the parts of ourselves that we haven't necessarily paid attention to, the parts that are in many ways calling us, that have possibly contributed to us being unwell. And the same characteristics of an adventure, if you were going away or traveling or doing something quite exciting, there's risk and uncertainty, there's beauty and joy, there's disappointment, there's heartache, there's like the whole human range that is available there. And adventure holds exactly the same.
If you've been looking for ways to slow down and to connect with yourself again, this episode is for you. In this episode, I sit down with the founder of Inventure, Julie Robinson, who launched this concept as a guiding philosophy that invites you to explore the uncharted territory within yourself. We talk about what it means to slow down, savor beauty, embrace simplicity, and cultivate joy in a fast-paced world, and how these practices can shift us from restlessness to renewal. Whether you are craving a more mindful lifestyle, looking for ways to reconnect with creativity, or seeking deeper meaning in your day-to-day life, this conversation will leave you with practical wisdom and fresh perspectives. Discover how Inventure offers a modern approach to ancient wisdom, and how inner adventures can transform the way we live, work, and connect with others. I'm very curious about this Inventure that you've got. And I actually came across your Instagram page, and that's how I found you. And here we are in the middle of Joburg. And I'm curious about how it all came about, how you started the whole idea around Inventure, because it's a bit of a word play, I suppose. Can you tell me how it all came about?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thanks, Renette. So it actually started, probably the thinking around it came through conversation with a dear friend of mine, Michelle Davis, and that was actually during COVID. So during 2020, we started having conversations about starting something together and what could that be. And the backstory before we even got to those conversations is Inventure has really come from my journey through my struggles with chronic illness. So that has is really the foundation or the bedrock of it. And I've struggled with illness through various parts of my life. And in my early 30s, I had another kind of bout of it and challenge with it. And so between my recovery from illness and my conversations that started in 2020, Inventure actually arose out of that. And the essence of it essentially is that I love adventure and freedom, and the freedom that comes from traveling, from exploring, from being out in nature, from being in the mountains. Like, I love all of that. And then when your body says, no, we're not doing this anymore, the invitation, or maybe not even the invitation, that's quite a light word, the push into it is to go on an inner adventure. So to actually go and explore the parts of ourselves that we haven't necessarily paid attention to, the parts that are in many ways calling us, that have possibly contributed to us being unwell. And the same characteristics of an adventure, if you were, going away or traveling or doing something quite exciting, there's risk and uncertainty, there's beauty and joy, there's disappointment, there's heartache, there's like the whole human range that is available there.
Yeah.
And an inventure holds exactly the same as an inner adventure. So it's come from illness, it's come through friendship as well, through conversation, and then flourished into hopefully what it's becoming now.
I am very passionate about slow living, and I write about it quite often. And I recently also wrote an article about the difference between slow living and soft living. But there is a bit of a it interlinks with each other as well. And I think what you are doing has a lot to do with that. I had a look at your website, and on there you also mention the different pillars of Inventure. And I was curious about how you got to those pillars, because one of them is also slowing down and things like simplicity and things like that. And how does that fit into what you do through Inventure?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love what you wrote about sort of the slow and the soft, because I definitely think that that ties in and speaks to each other so beautifully. And from an adventure point of view, I mean, it took a while to come to an understanding of what would guide adventure. So it's one thing to come up with a concept and an idea. It's another thing to think about, well, what does that actually mean? And how, if someone is engaging with adventure, what would they feel? How would they feel differently to if it was someone else, or a different type of experience, whatever that may be? And so through these conversations that we had in coming to what adventure is, we kind of got quite clear on that we're in such a fast-paced world. Things are moving incredibly fast. We've become quite distracted, quite disconnected, and we just moving towards this thing, and we're just missing what is around us. And when we are in the natural world, and when we are walking, and I'm quite a slow walker generally. I mean, I'm not the person through the airport who's gunning it. What are we noticing? So, like, what are we actually stopping to notice, to take a breath, to see the beauty around us? And we've actually forgotten to even notice it. We just pass it by. And I think when you're unwell, everything just slows down. Like, everything just stops. And you don't just start to notice things immediately. It takes time for your mind body system to like recalibrate, to drop down to a different level. And so these principles or pillars of Inventure guide how we work. They've absolutely come from what illness and healing and recovery has meant for me personally. And what, if you think about simplicity, for example, I went through many years of over complexifying my life around every doctor, every possible medication, every possible treatment, every possible, intervention, known to man that can help you feel better. And actually, when you return to the most foundational and simple principles or ways of living, I think something really incredible and beautiful happens for us. And the amount of people, I mean, one of the pillars is cultivating joy, and the amount of people that I sit with or have engagement with who there's nothing wrong in their life, but they've lost their joy. They don't even know what brings them joy. They don't. If you say, what do you find beautiful, or look at that, and the appreciation of what is most simple is critical. And I think when we slow down enough to take a breath, to breathe slower, to walk a little bit aimlessly and meander, and to do that in a way that is like just honoring to where we are, I think that we start to really create space for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so all the work is guided by those 5 principles.
Yeah. So you've got an Inventure experience coming up soon in October. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit about what they can expect from an Inventure experience like that?
Yeah, for sure. So we've been doing these out in the Karoo, which I love. I mean, for those who have spent time in the Karoo, it's just a magical landscape. And so an adventure is essentially in the Karoo is 4 nights, 5 days, completely offline. So it's off the grid. Before we head out into the wilderness, we place our watches and our phones and whoops and aura rings into a box, and which initially creates a bit of anxiety for people, and then they're like, "Whew, this is a bit new." And then as we start heading out into the Karoo, it's amazing how that feeling dissipates quite quickly, and the next minute they're noticing things, seeing the mountains, the light change. So it's a completely offline experience, and it's out where we set up a full remote camp. So I've got a partner down there, David DeVet, and he through his company sets up a full remote camp. He cooks incredible, delicious Karoo food, so lots of lamb, and really the intention of it is it's designed specifically for those people who are coming. So our groups are small and intimate. There's about a maximum of 8 people, and it really is an invitation to disconnect from responsibility, demand, from personas, from our roles, from just how we have needed to be in the world, and to come into the Karoo and really to remember what it means to just be again. And so how I design it is, a variety of creative practice. So we might work with clay, we might work with charcoal. There's lots of walking. There's gentle movement to stretch the body and to just kind of loosen up a little bit. We swim in the river. There's just space to allow your mind to have a break, like to just take a moment away from screens and to start to feel again, which I think we've become so disconnected from ourselves and what we feel, that when we're out there, suddenly I've got space for thoughts. No one needs anything. No one's asking anything. Everything is taken care of for you. But it's essentially a sensory, I guess I call it a sensory, like adventure essentially. But the reality is that your senses start to awaken.
Yes.
When you're just walking through the veldt, when you are noticing the sunrise, the sunset. I do a lot of conscious breathing out there, so breath work is a part of it. And it's not forced engagement. So I wouldn't say it's a retreat, or it's it's a process or something like that. It's a space that we actually move from the head to the body to your hands, and the experience of feeling again texture, like color, noticing, being aware of our sensations in our body. And then through that, and based on what's created, what's been fascinating is that people start to have different conversations with each other.
I
You
can
know,
only
there's a
imagine.
different level of depth.
Yes.
And it's not forced. So around the fire, I don't say, you know, how's everyone? What's happening? What's going on for you? Because I trust the process of the experience of just being out there, that whatever someone's meant to receive, whatever they are needing, I feel that the land and the sky holds. And it's not a human thing that can be forced. I think that when we leave people to be and we just hold it and nurture it, what they are requiring from that time, I believe does come.
Yeah. I kind of believe that that is what travel does for one. It takes you out of that space where you are responsible for so many things and so busy all the time. So I always tell my husband we need to take a good break in the middle of the year and at the end of the year. There needs to be at least a week where we just be, you know, where we just.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting that you also mentioned that. I think the Karoo is one of the places in South Africa where one can truly, you know, disconnect from all of those responsibilities and things. Have you had any other places in South Africa where you've had this a similar feeling, and places that could maybe hold that same energy that you speak of?
Yeah, I mean, one of them, I would definitely say the bush. I think that the bush has a incredible, I mean, different to the Karoo, but there's something very unique and special about, I think for all of us as South Africans, like being in the bush, we just feel that when we're there, there's a, I mean, you can go away there for maybe even only 2 nights, and you can feel your whole system relax. It sometimes feels like you've been away for a week, and I think the bush really, really has that. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. I'm curious, because you're obviously also a psychologist and a professional in your own right. How do you blend that? You touched on not really, you know, sitting around the fire and asking questions to everyone, particularly, but how do you blend your profession with an inventure experience without it being overpowering?
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful question. I love that question. So the the it is a challenge, because I think in my sort of professional world, so my day to day in Joburg, there's this desire always, as a, you know, facilitator, or if you're working with a leadership team or individuals, there's always a curiosity of like, what's happening for you, what's happening in the room, what's the dynamic, how are people feeling.
Yeah.
And of course I want to know. I mean, I'm equally, you know, I'm very curious. So but in that context it works and it's fine, and that's good. But out in the Karoo or out on an adventure experience, I often find I have to like bite my hand to just say, Jules, don't say anything. Just let it happen.
Yeah.
Like, just let people, we don't always need to intervene. And I think when we are in the wild, the nature is doing, by its pure being, it's doing everything that people require and need to remember and need to return to. And so, by me kind of after day one in my professional hat, saying, you know, how was that? How was your day today? How did you experience this walk? What came up for you? What took place? Of course, I want to know that. But every time I find myself wanting to go there, something inside of me says, just be still. Just let people sit quietly around the fire. If conversation happens, great. If people just actually need time to be quiet, and I think we've forgotten how to do that, to be with each
Absolutely.
other
Yeah.
but to just watch the flames, or to look up into the night sky and the Milky Way and be in awe of that without someone telling us to do that. But to just see what you need in that moment. If you need to go to bed, cool. But to trust that people inherently know what they need. And on either side of the experience, which is probably where the professional part comes in, is that I meet with people one-on-one before we go to create a tailored experience. And then when we come back, we have a one-on-one debrief.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I have more of the,
Yeah.
how is this for you? What happened for you? Like, where are you at? And of course, while we're out there, if someone needs something, or they're not okay, or they need a space to chat, or of course that's absolutely available. But I don't, I specifically do not force it.
Yeah. You touched on the fact that we've kind of lost the ability to be still, and specifically on our own, I know many people who are not able to sit in a restaurant and dine alone. And I've met someone just the other day, and he also said he cannot be alone. He needs to be with people, or if he is alone, he needs a screen. He can't not have a screen. So it is quite a big challenge to overcome for 5 days.
Yeah.
How do you see the people do that? I mean, how do they cope with that change?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about it is that I think that's why people would really struggle to say yes to this experience, because the thought of being off all devices, not being governed by time and watches and distraction, so is very unnerving, because we don't, as you say, have the opportunity for that, and we definitely won't seek it out and pay for it, that's for sure. Well, for the most part. And I think when people initially get out there, there is that angst of, where's my stuff, and should I check, or I'm with people I don't know, so I don't want to really have conversation. I feel a bit awkward. What do I say? Oh, and so there's that initially, and then it just softens, and that dynamic changes. And the reason why I think it does out there is that people often have a misconception about adventure, that it's this, I'm going to go out into the Karoo and meditate on a rock for 5 days on my own while Julie brings me food, and that's really not what it is at all, because I don't think that if we're just going to go somewhere and sit again as a posture, we will access the same level of thinking and insight that we would have had if we were possibly on the couch, maybe slightly more because we're in nature. But so I don't design it in the way that there's a lot of sitting around. There's time to rest, but a lot of it is walking slowly through the Karoo, or having an experience in a different part of the landscape, but like maybe with clay, or where there's stillness in movement, if that makes sense. So that people are not sitting there twiddling their thumbs and this is the most like horrific experience. It's inviting them to just to move, because I think as we move and sometimes do hard things, like, I mean, as you said, the Karoo is not an easy landscape. It's not a walk in the park. And I think when you do like sometimes difficult things, and we're moving our physical body, we are accessing different parts of ourselves that is ready to kind of come to the surface, and there's insight and wisdom there. That in a busy, crowded, relentless pace of Joburg or any city, we just don't have time for that. And when people start to feel that ease, it's quite amazing what does come up, and what people start to remember, what they can think about, what feelings arise. And I think the reason why we don't often want to do it is because we know deep down that as soon as we have to access stillness, things are going to come up for us that we've pushed all the way down, which I'm well aware of personally around. That's how I did it. That's why I got sick, I think, for a large portion of it. And to just sit and let the land hold it with you. And you don't need to talk about it. You don't need to go through a process on it. You just need to feel it.
Yeah.
And I think when we can find the courage to say yes to that, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. You live in Joburg, and obviously, you also have a busy lifestyle with your own practice and everything. How do you incorporate, slowing down and feeling in this lifestyle?
Yeah. Yeah, the reality is it is a major challenge for me. Yeah, I will not sit here and say it's a easy thing and I've got this beautiful daily practice and amazing way that I just glide through the world. It is hard and I find it really difficult. Yeah, the I think having some close mates. I've got a very supportive family and a couple of close friends that I can chat to and share with. But in terms of the day-to-day relentlessness of Joburg pace, I really, and having your own business, right, or own thing, I think is really difficult. And a lot of the time I don't get it right. And a lot of the time I want to escape to the Karoo on my own and to sit on a rock. Because that has offered me so much solace and comfort in my healing journey to just be on my own. I process my world and obviously the work I do and my own emotional state definitely through my body. I can tell when I've had a long day of listening to people or if I'm dealing with stuff emotionally that I'm finding really difficult, it really does show up in my physical body. And because through my healing journey, of course, which continues, I have learnt the language of my body. So I just know. And then I will maybe just have a long bath, which I do every night. Or I find small little things, but it's not consistent, which is a challenge for me. And there's things I know intellectually that I need to do to keep myself healthy and well in this pace and the space that I'm in. But I really find it difficult to do it consistently. It's really challenging, and I think that's something I'm still trying to get the hang of. If I'm really honest.
But it's also a journey, hey?
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
the adventure experience.
Exactly.
It's a journey and life is a journey, and you kind of just need to. I think connecting with yourself is the most important part of this whole conversation. And I think Inventure gives that. It allows you to connect with yourself and to learn more about yourself in terms of, like you say, now that you get sick when you had a tough time and you know what to do to make it better and creating those slow moments even within a busy world and slow corners in your house where you kind of just get that feeling of slowing down. And you'll only be able to do that, I think, if you know yourself well. And you need to have slower moments like the Inventure experience to actually get to know yourself better, because we kind of neglect ourselves in life, I think.
And it's I think it's exactly that, because I think in the world there's this whole thing where we feel like we do need to be perfect. So once I've had an insight around my health, for example, then I must perfectly take that insight and run it through every facet of my life. Now, of course, that would be helpful to me intellectually, I mean, of course, that would be great. But the reality is that even though I do the work I do, as you've said, I'm still human. I still find things really difficult. I still have low energy. I still don't want to get up every morning and do the stretching I need to do for my fascia and do 10 minutes at night so that I sleep better. Yes, it happens now and again, but it's not in that same. And then you kind of look at yourself in the mirror and go, geez, Jules, like, come on, like, get it together. But I think there's a compassion that needs to come first and foremost for myself to be like, exactly as you've said, find a corner, find a pocket, find a little space, which is my home, for example, which allows me to take a deeper breath and to just like it's going to be okay. And, that's fine. And I think the more I've come to know myself and how my body reacts to things, that's an intelligence like that I will never take for granted, because as much as I'm not perfectly executing on everything, I have a deep, deep, deep awareness of when I'm struggling with something, how is it reflected in my breathing? When I'm had a long day, okay, is that a back problem, or is that just that I'm holding quite a lot in my back and I need to just lie on a roller for a while and I'll be okay. So like, how am I responding to what my body is saying, or what my emotional state? And that's also what the Karoo offers, because when you're not distracted by anything and you walk in or we breathe in and you're like, jeez, my back is really sore, my hips. It's just to notice that and like, what is that, without trying to solution it, but then to do something that just helps it. And that, when you can bring people into that and understanding and recognition of that, I think that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah, and then they would have come very far already in that journey.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. You also have, apart from the Karoo experience, you also have a city experience. Just tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've done a couple of them this year. We've what we call Adventure in the City. Not everyone wants to head out to the Karoo for 5 days or can. And so the Adventure in the City is really an experience we were doing at Bean There Coffee for 3 hours on a Sunday morning, where people would arrive, bring something that they love to do. So whether that is a book you haven't read for, you've been wanting to read, some sketching, writing, sitting and just having a coffee like in the old days without being glued, to our phone.
Yeah.
So, and as you arrive, you put your phone and your watch in the back behind the coffee bar, and you just sort of sit there and be. And if you want to write or do anything that brings you joy, build a puzzle, hang out, come with friends, come with your child, come alone. And it's amazing how conversations are organically had when you can just sit at a table with a stranger and be like, how's it? What's happening for you? Or and that is really wonderful. So we'll do some more of those next year.
Okay.
And then I also do a monthly in-person group breathwork session.
Okay.
So that's also again just a space to create space, slow down, and tap into the miracle of your breath as a way to shift how you may be feeling. And so those are the ones we have monthly, and then now and again, and hopefully in different locations.
Yes.
To bring people into the city, and into what Joburg has to offer.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. Where can people find you online, and do you have any other adventure experiences like the Karoo one that's happening in October planned for the rest of the year?
So people can find me very best, if you want to have a look at all the offerings and what we have on offer, is theinventure.com. So that's the website. And then on Instagram, The Inventure on Instagram as well, and same on Facebook. So in terms of the experiences for this year, we've got the Women's Adventure in early October, and a week later, the Men's Adventure. And then no more for this year, as it gets too hot in the Karoo.
Of
So
course, yeah.
by that
yeah.
point, we will be sweating big time. But we will have some more next year. So
Okay.
possibly one late March, in May, and possibly one in September.
Okay.
So, but we'll update that, as we go.
Amazing. If you're a lifestyle, travel, fashion, food, or wine brand looking for a multi-purpose platform to collaborate with in telling your brand's story, please reach out to hello@suitcaseandchardonnay.co.za. Suitcase and Chardonnay is a blog, podcast, and social media company, and under the same brand, I am also a freelance writer who writes numerous articles for various publications. I would love to work with you in telling your brand's story, so feel free to reach out and let's share your story together.